everybody. Great to have you for another week of the Wolfpack Coaches Show live here at the Little Waldorf Saloon. We are here every Wednesday night talking Wolfpack football from 7 to 8 o'clock with head coach Ryan Polian. This week is a bye week for the Wolfpack. They'll be back at it a week from Saturday as they'll be at Bronco Stadium on the blue turf to take on Boise State. That game kicks off at 5 o'clock. We'll have all the coverage beginning with the Bud Light Tailgate Show at 3:30. A little bit later on in tonight's show, we're going to visit with Andy Vaughn, who is the Director of Player Personnel and Recruiting for the University of Nevada. Also going to talk with Devin, who, of course, a couple of weeks ago at Florida State had a very difficult knee injury, but has undergone surgery, and we'll talk with him, get an update on where he is at right now. We begin the show, as always, though, with the head coach Brian Polian. And, Coach, I know Friday night in San Diego was a tough game for you guys, and you made the comment at your luncheon on Monday that your hands were shaking watching the film. I guess the easy opening question is, a couple of days later, have the hands stopped shaking yet?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. I think the difficult thing about this one in particular is that it's backed up against the bye week. So while we have a lot of things to focus on right now, there's no opponent to play Saturday. So it's still kind of banging around in your head a little bit. But, you know, we tell the team all the time we got to move on, win or lose, and that's what we've had to do as a staff, move on, get our minds focused on the challenges that lie in front of us for the week and get going.
Obviously, anytime you lose a game in overtime, it's going to be a difficult loss. What was it specifically about this game that got you upset going back and reviewing the tape?
While I have a ton of respect for San Diego State and what they did, I felt like we lost this game more than they won it. There were far too many self-inflicted wounds in terms of missed assignments, guys, poor coaching decisions, losing our poise, certainly starting with me, some silly penalties. We just, we're not good enough as a team quite yet to survive all those self-inflicted wounds and then still win a game against a pretty good opponent, which they are, especially at home. And, do I take some solace in knowing that down 21 in the fourth quarter we forced overtime? Sure. I mean, I'm proud of our kids for fighting the way that they fought. I'm proud of our coaches for the job that they did. But the bottom line is, in my opinion, it should have never gotten to that point.
Looking at the defensive side of the football, what we saw against Air Force for much of the game, what we saw in this game against San Diego State, what do you see as the major issues plaguing your defense right now?
We're just off. We're it's a game of inches. We're supposed to be in the C gap. We get reached out. We're in the D gap. The ball hits through the C. We don't need to do more. We need to do less and do it better. And frankly, we need to play with a really consistent high effort all the time. And we have guys that play hard all the time, and we have some other guys that haven't quite figured that out yet, and we're going to help them get there. And like I said in the press conference earlier this week, everybody needs to do a better job, starting with me, the coaching staff, and I have no problem saying that the players need to do a better job because we're all accountable. And that's my job is to hold both myself, the staff, and the players accountable to making sure that we're doing things at the highest level we can do them.
In each of the last two games, we've seen your defense struggle, and then yet in the fourth quarter, when you needed to get off the football field, they were able to do it. Is it as simple as saying that in those particular situations, everybody fit in the right gap and did what they were supposed to do, where for the rest of the game, there was that one guy or one part of the defense that just didn't work that got you in the hole?
I think it's a combination of things, but there's some truth in that why can't we play like that all the time? Why can't we play with that attention to detail, at the beginning of the game as opposed to when our back's against the wall? And some of it is just luck. I mean, Air Force drops a ball. You got to get a break here or there, and it seems that we're catching those breaks when we need them. We may not necessarily be catching them early in the game.
You talked about the belief that your team has. Down 21 in the fourth quarter on the road, that's where a lot of games end. And yet again, your team was able to come back, tie the game, and send it into overtime. What sense did you get from your club there on the sideline going into that fourth quarter?
I think there was never any doubt that they could compete in the game, and that if we could get a stop or two and continue to move the ball the way that we did. And keep in mind now, two of those drive stops at the beginning of the second half are us not taking care of the football. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're probably going to get sacked on the one, but that's fine. Live to fight another day. We'll punt the ball and change field position as opposed to, trying to make a superhuman play with two people coming free off the edge. We put the ball on the ground, they return it down to the 10. I mean, again, it goes back to more self-inflicted wounds. So it's not as if offensively we're saying, we can't make a first down. We were making plays and then hurting ourselves, and I think collectively they knew, hey, if we will just stop making these mistakes, we can continue to move the ball and score some points, which eventually we did. And once the defense saw that we could go down and get points, we kept telling them, guys, at one point literally went over to the defense, said, you're going to need to get 2 more stops. If you can get 2 more stops, we will get this game into overtime. And sure enough, that's the way it played out. So I do give our team credit. I give our coaches credit. Everybody kept their poise in the second half when things could have gone haywire, and we continue to compete. And ultimately, we gave ourselves a chance to win the game. We just didn't do it.
When you go back to those turnovers to start the second half, is there a fine line to be walked when you have a quarterback who obviously is very capable of making big plays with his legs, and we've seen him do it so many times, to escape pressure and be able to make a big play, versus what you're talking about? There are times when you just have to say, there's nothing there, live to fight another day.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a fine line, because you don't want to stifle his creativity, you don't want to stifle his athleticism. But if you choose to leave the pocket and you say, okay, I'm going to try and break contain, put the ball away. I mean, we don't need to leave it out hanging like a loaf of bread. And he'll be the first one to tell you that. And then if you see something down the field where you think you can take a shot, now we can take it from a secure position and get it back up above our shoulder to throw it. And Cody knows that. And he's got enough game experience. Sometimes you just got to go down and we'll put the punt team out there and make them have to go 90 yards as opposed to taking a chance, the ball gets knocked out, and now, they're down in the short end of the field.
Those 2 turnovers were part of a game-changing stretch that started late in the first half and carried over into the second half. Is it tough to sit back and kind of explain how things went so wrong so quickly for your football team to go from a 3-point lead to all of a sudden down by 21?
Yeah, it snowballed on us a little bit. And the end of the first half really is what frustrated me the most. We're in a position, it started, people want to talk about the penalty on Richie and then my subsequent penalty. The reality of it is it started the play before on the punt. Mm-hmm. We catch a ball on the 5-yard line, and we've got to do a better job as coaches in making sure our players understand, listen, put your feet on the 10, know where you are in the field. If it's kicked over your head, let it go. That would have been a touchback. We have it, minute and a half to go with some timeouts on the 20. Instead, we try and make a play. The ball's on the 14. We throw an under route, and we're going to gain 9 yards. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Bradley's still in the field of play. Richie peels back, picks off a corner. I got upset. I didn't think it was a penalty. Subsequently, I've been told that it should not have been thrown, but it was thrown. And then I got upset, and then I got one thrown on me. And at that point, we're behind the chains, 2nd and 18, because the penalties are marked off from where the play ended. And it's a shame. Had we gained another yard, it's first down,
right. And
now it's marked back as a dead ball foul, but it's still first down. It's 2nd and 18. We run the ball twice to force San Diego State to use all their timeouts, and so at that point you're saying, okay, this is not ending great, but we're going to punt the ball away and play some defense, and at worst give up a field goal. They showed an all-out rush. We had timeouts to use. I took the timeout because I wanted our punt team to have seen the look before we snapped the ball. We brought them over, talked about it. Okay, did you see what they're trying to do to us? Yes. And then we put them back out there, and unfortunately we got a little bit of a high snap, and the punter, we didn't handle it, and you end up with the safety. Okay, we're still up a point. Let's kick it away and play some defense, and unfortunately they went down the field on us, and it was a big momentum swing. There's no doubt about it.
Just to clear this up, Tenpenny do the right thing once the snap went through his hands and was in the end zone?
I would have preferred if he had taken a peek, and it's an illegal kick. He can't kick it off the ground, but that's our fault as coaches, not his. He reacted, with a gut instinct. I think he felt there was a rush coming because there was an 8-man front. In reality, they had ducked the guy out and were in return mode. But I'm not going to fault him for that. I mean, he's the one out on the field, and the bullets are live and flying around. It's more of a teaching point than it is, hey, we're upset with him.
Yeah. Give me your perspective on overtime, because you come from a 21-point deficit. You got what you wanted in overtime. You played defense first to see what you have to do. Felt like momentum was really on your side at that point. What did you see in the overtime period?
Well, we misfit a run to start, and they get a big gainer on us, I believe, a first down. And then on first and second down on about the 11 or 12, I think it was, we played pretty good. And we had them in third and long. We pressure the quarterback a little bit. He steps out of the pocket. They're running a 2-man combination. We're 3 over 2, and unfortunately, a defensive back got caught peeking at the quarterback, and a wide receiver. Initially, the route's covered, slides in behind him, and they complete it. So look, but that's. They're on scholarship too, and we got to find a way to make a play. What I thought hurt us was going out there on first down and getting a false start penalty, because now you're first and 15, you're behind the chains. We run the ball on first down, we gain 5. Okay, good, we gain 5, but now you're second and 10, and from there, we just couldn't make a play.
Yeah. You talk about making mistakes. I think San Diego State made a similar mistake on the last touchdown you scored to allow Richie to be wide open in the back of the end zone. So those kind of things happen.
Yeah, same exact play where the quarterback breaks contain and a DB gets caught peeking at the quarterback to see what's going to happen, and a wide receiver kind of slips into a dead area. And, it's football. I mean, it happened to both sides.
All right, we're here at the Little Waldorf Saloon, proud to be Reno's game day headquarters and home for Wolfpack fans since 1922. The Little Waldorf Saloon, where history is made and traditions are celebrated. Stay tuned. More of the Wolfpack Coaches Show with Brian Polian coming up right after this.
Cute.
All right, we're back with more of the Wolfpack Coaches Show presented by Lexus of Reno, who invites you to test drive a luxurious Lexus automobile today. Or for more information, you can visit Lexus.com. The Wolfpack football team in the midst of a bye week this week. Coming up a week from Saturday, they'll be in Boise to take on Boise State. Again, that game kicks off at 5 o'clock, and we'll have it for you beginning with the Bud Light Tailgate Show at 3:30. Brian Polian with us as he is every Wednesday night live here at the Little Wall. And, Coach, obviously this week, without a game to look forward to on Saturday, there are some different priorities for you guys. You've talked a lot about recruiting. Give folks just a little insight into what the schedule is like for your team this week on the bye week.
Well, we gave everybody Saturday off. We wanted them to have the chance to catch a deep breath and kind of regroup a little bit, and we gave the coaches off as well. And I had a chance to play catch with my 4-year-old son in the front yard and watch my baby daughter waddle around the house. And we came back to work on Sunday. We met. We didn't practice. Monday is normally the players' day off, so they're focused on academics on Monday. And yesterday and today, we've had some pretty good practices. They were physical. We're in pads. We did a lot of good-on-good stuff for speed, and then we started to introduce the Boise State concepts so to get a little bit of a jump start. Tomorrow, we will take the guys like Batonio and Fajardo and Wimberly and John McNeil and Hecking, those guys that have played a ton of plays. They'll go out tomorrow in shorts and shirts, and we'll just run a little bit and get a good stretch. And we'll get we're going to send the younger guys out in full pads, and we're going to play a little Wolfpack Bowl. We're going to get out there and scrimmage a little bit, let the GAs call the plays, give them a little experience, and I'm just going to go out there and officiate and observe. And then, we shift our focus to recruiting. Most of the staff has actually left town tonight after practice, and we're going to get out, not only here locally, but spread our wings and go see the guys that are high up on our board and see if we can't keep piecing this recruiting class together.
All right, that leads very well into our Twitter questions for tonight. If you have a question for Coach Polian, you can tweet at NevadaWolfpack.com, use the hashtag AskThePack, and we have the questions for Coach Polian. Questions about recruiting. One of them talked about how in the past Nevada has primarily recruited the state of California, but you were able to bring some guys in from Texas. The question was, do you see yourself expanding recruiting boundaries even more, and where would you like to get into in the future?
Yeah, I think we have to be quite honest with you, and there are a couple reasons why. First of all, the academic standards at our great university, just a qualifier does not get into our school. So with higher academic standards, that's going to shrink your pool here within a drive, a striking distance, or what would be a $99 Southwest flight. So in order to get the type of players that we need to win in the Mountain West Conference and that can do what we need them to do to succeed here academically, then we need to expand our net. We're going to go into the Pacific Northwest a little bit more, into the states of Washington and Oregon. I think we found success in a little bit of a niche in Texas, and that niche is continuing. I can't speak about specific names in this recruiting class, but we're finding success in the state of Texas. We're going to continue to work in Hawaii, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think that we could get a guy or two every year out of Hawaii. So we're going to go into Metro Phoenix a little bit and see if we can't find a guy or two there. But there's no doubt, with the level of competition with the jump to the Mountain West and with the increased academic standards that student athletes have to meet to enroll at the University of Nevada, we need to expand our net.
Why is it so hard to get into the state of Texas? Why is it so hard to get in there and be successful recruiting that state?
It's a really relationship-driven place. I mean, you can't come in cold and just not know anybody and not know where to go. But I have found through just a year at Texas A&M, but I had some guys on the Texas A&M staff that were 20-year recruiters in Houston and the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, that they introduced me to all the right people. And now, not so much me, but when people know that I came from the A&M family tree, and Kevin Sumlin, who's so well regarded in the state of Texas, that they know that their guys will be cared for and looked out after, and there's a trust factor there. So, and frankly, I think in the state of Texas, we're a really really good alternative for guys. I mean, I think that we might be a better fit than some of the schools in their own home state. Certainly Mountain West football compared to Conference USA or maybe the American Athletic Conference, it's pretty comparable. So, if not, maybe a little better in some cases. So, I think we're a nice alternative for some of those kids in Texas.
More recruiting questions from Twitter, and this one is kind of a two-part question. Number one, asking, what are kids concerned about today in recruiting? And following that up with, what is your recruiting pitch when you go in to see a young man?
Well, every guy's different. There's no doubt about that. But I think overall kids are, this is, in the last couple of years, they're really starting to ask about contracts. Are you going to be my coach? I've been asked multiple times now on the phone by guys, hey, Coach, how long is your contract? Do you plan on being there? I think guys are interested in continuity and not necessarily having to go through a transition while they're in school. They want to know how they fit in your system. They want to know about quality of life in terms of, do we have training table? Tell me about your trainers. Tell me about your facilities. Facilities matter, and we're naive to think that they don't. They want to know about TV. Can I be on TV? Tell me about the conference. How's the conference match up to some of the other places? And then the non-football things that matter are, can you provide me with the education that I'm looking for? Tell me about the academic support. How are you guys going to be able to help me when I struggle academically? And then, tell me about the community. Is it going to be a good place to live? Is it going to be a good place to be a college student? And I think we're favorable in a lot of those places. When we go and recruit a guy, the first thing we do is we tell him, hey, listen, this university is a U.S. News and World Report Tier 1 university. This is not a good education. This is a great education. The other thing that we talk about is I believe in some sense places are places. Locker rooms all kind of look the same. Stadiums, sweatsuits, Nike, Adidas. I mean, that stuff, is it important? Yeah, but it's not the be-all, end-all. To me, people make the difference. And I believe that our staff, I believe that our support staff, I believe our administration, I believe that we just have great people here. And the really interesting thing about our place, our university, our community, our batting average when we get people to take a visit here is really high because we always exceed expectations. I think the motto of the school ought to be the University of Nevada, a whole lot better than you think it is. Because when we get people here, they're stunned by how beautiful the campus is. For the out-of-staters, they may not. They hear Nevada, they think Las Vegas. I mean, we're worlds apart, and I think when we get them here on campus, they're always shocked at how beautiful a place it is. The new buildings that have gone up in the last 5-8 years. There are just so many positives about our university.
Just a short time left here, but there was one other question from Twitter, and it related to your freshmen. Talking about we've seen a lot of freshmen on the field this year, but asking about are there other freshmen who are redshirting we won't see in game action this year that have impressed you on the practice field that we can look for down the road?
I think Joey Engelmeyer from Hawaii, an offensive lineman, he'd be a guard or center. I think he's going to be a good football player. DeAndre Fuller has got something that you can't coach. He's flat fast. So his development physically, he's about 160 pounds right now, but we need to get him bigger. He'll be an impact player. There are Cody DK, who has seen some time on special teams, is going to be a really good safety at some point. I mean, we have some guys that are going to be good players as they develop. The trick is for us, we got to develop them.
All right, Coach, good luck on the recruiting trail this week. Safe travels, and we'll see you back here next week.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Head Coach Brian Polian here with us at the Little Wall. We're live here every Wednesday, 7 to 8 o'clock, talking Wolfpack football. And we'll continue with more of the Wolfpack Coaches Show coming up right after this.
5, 3, 2.
All right, back with more of the Wolfpack Coaches Show presented by Lexus of Reno, live here at the Little Wall, here every Wednesday night, 7 to 8 o'clock, talking Wolfpack football. Appreciate Coach Polian coming by to spend a few minutes with us here tonight. Let's welcome Andy Vaughn to the program. Andy is the Director of Football and Recruiting Operations at the University of Nevada, and that fits in well with what we were just talking about with Coach. Obviously, a big week recruiting-wise for the program. But, Andy, one of the things I wanted to get into with you is we hear about recruiting. We know it's important, but I'm not sure a lot of us completely understand how this whole process works. Of millions of kids across the country, how you guys identify who potential targets are, and then what the process is of getting them here from their high school to ultimately enrolling and playing football at the University of Nevada. So if you could, maybe just kind of give us an overview of the process and how it all works for you guys.
Sure, absolutely. It's a 365-day-a-year process. You know, the guys that spend that much time recruiting are going to do really well, and the guys that don't, you're going to get left behind, and that's what it's really become, is a year-long process. You know, we subscribe to recruiting services early in the year. February comes, as soon as signing day is over, I'm on the phone ordering more recruiting services for the next year so we can look at this next year's class. And then we're going to get those guys ready with all the information, all the contacts at the school, all the kids that were on the radar as sophomores are going to be juniors. Juniors are going to be seniors. So the coaches are ready to go out in the spring. You know, they'll go out during the spring evaluation period during April into May. They're going to go into their recruiting areas. They're going to look at what kids are there that we have on our radar, and they try to find those hidden gems. And that's, again, like Coach said earlier, through those relationships. That's how they're going to find those kids is, you know, everybody knows about the top guys. You know, the top 100 ESPN players, Rivals players, everybody's going to know about those guys. Somebody like us, a mid-major program, we're going to have to dig deeper, turn over more rocks, and look at the intangibles and project more of what guys are going to be. So we may look at a quarterback as a safety or a wide receiver, as a running back. It just depends. For us, we really have to spend that time projecting guys at the next level. We're not going to get a guy that's going to come in a lot of times and be ready for the NFL right away, or be ready to play right away like somebody like an Alabama or USC would. So we're going to go in the spring, identify guys that they're going to look at for this next season. And then we're just going to keep the recruiting process. We're going to hit them with mailers, emails. Social media is big now. When the phone call periods start in the fall, we're going to hit them with that. You know, so hopefully my guys are making phone calls right now while they're on the road driving around. But that's the next part of it. And then get them to campus is the biggest thing, you know. So through that whole spring and summer, there's just so many guys that we're trying to just funnel them down to decide who's the best fit for Nevada. And the big part of it, like Coach said, is going to be academics. We may see guys we like athletically, but when I get the transcripts and we look at those and see how they fit with us, and sometimes it's a great fit, sometimes it's not. If it's not, we have to move on and find a guy that's going to fulfill both those areas, athletically and academically. So when it comes to this point of the year, we have our target guys. We're just trying to develop those relationships with them and get them on campus either during the season or right after the season. So,
is it possible to over-recruit an athlete in high school? Is that even a possibility?
With today's kids, I don't know if it is. You know, the kids are so tuned in to social media, to the internet, to all forms of communication. I guess it could be in some situations, but guys just like to be recruited. You find a lot of guys like to be recruited now. So, and again, it's just, I don't think you can really over-recruit it. If a guy's developing a quality relationship with the recruit, he's going to know the limits of when he needs to call him, what time of day he needs to call him, how often he needs to hit him on social media and those kind of things. So I think in the past it may have been when there's less regulation, but now with all the rules, it's kind of simple. We're really limited on what we can do. So.
I wonder if it's different for, as you talked about, you know, Nevada obviously has to identify different kids, just like San Diego State does, or San Jose State, teams in the Mountain West versus the SCs and Alabamas and Texas A&M and all that. I wonder if those guys that are being recruited by those big schools sometimes say, enough with the phone calls, enough. I get it, where maybe the kids you're going after, they do want that attention because they're trying to say, hey, I'm out here, I'm ready to play, I can help you guys.
I think it's the same at all levels. I mean, we have guys at the mid-major level that are getting bombarded by teams like Mountain West teams, by Conference USA teams, and those kind of things. So I think it's all relative.
Okay. Yeah. How tough is it when you spend months recruiting a kid, and then you're coming down to signing day, and big school, whoever it is, happens to lose somebody, and suddenly they decide, this kid that you've been working on for 6 months, well, you know what, maybe he'd fit in nicely here, and they come in at the last minute. How tough is it to fend off those kind of things?
It's, sometimes it's all you can do, just try to hold on. But, I've had that happen to me several times in other places I've been at the mid-major level. Or come down signing day night, you talk to the kid the night before on the eve of signing day. He's all good. He's all in the boat. And the next day he calls you in the morning, won't answer your phone calls, or won't answer you trying to get in touch with the high school head coach, and you find out he signed with an SEC school. So, but I think it all comes back to relationships. Coach said that. We're going to find guys that fit with us and want to be here, and we foster those relationships. And our guys are really good. Our coaching staff is really excited about recruiting, and they've done a great job of developing those relationships where it's really hard for a kid to tell us no once they come here.
Andy Vaughn is our guest. He is the Director of Football and Recruiting Operations at the University of Nevada. Talk to me about the transition period, because you were here last year working with Coach Alt and his staff, and intimately involved, of course, in recruiting. When Coach Alt steps down and now a new staff is coming in, Coach Polian mentioned that you were instrumental in kind of helping keep this class together. What were those couple of weeks like for you, and what did you have to do to do your best to keep this thing going while the new staff was getting in and getting in place?
Right, yeah. For me, it was a privilege to work for Coach Alt. I think the biggest thing that I picked up from him, because I wasn't around him X's and O's wise, the biggest thing I learned from him is his passion for the University of Nevada. That was the biggest thing I took from that, how special this place is. So I kind of, when I came here, that's what I tried to emulate, was his passion for this place, because I think if all of our guys are passionate from top to bottom about this place, it's going to carry over and infect the recruits. So that was a tough time. I mean, I found out at the coaches convention there was going to be a switch. You don't really know in this profession where you land when that goes. You just have to try to make yourself invaluable. I mean, you have to make yourself so valuable to the program that it's going to be hard for somebody to let you go, and that's what I had tried to do with just my intimate knowledge about all facets of the program, recruiting wise. So it was a shock, but Coach Polian, we talked at the convention. He called me. We didn't cross paths, but we talked on the cell phone, and he wanted to meet as soon as he got back. So his first day here, he did his press conference and all that stuff, and then we were in the recruiting room for probably 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, going all over the recruits. So. My job was to make sure we had all the information on every guy. We knew every situation, and then what we tried to do was make that transition smooth for those kids, because it's a shock for them too. I mean, it's tough for us as a staff because we don't know what's going to happen, but it's tough for those kids that have really invested into the program, made their commitment, and then they're having to rethink that situation. So it's just getting all the information that we had before and where we stood with each of those guys, and then carrying that over and letting him have an intimate knowledge. He hasn't had 6 months to build up a relationship with those kids, so it was my job to kind of get him up to speed on everything he needed to know about all those guys as they came through.
Coach Polian talked about expanding the recruiting area, getting into Texas, getting into Hawaii, maybe a little bit more in the Pacific Northwest. As somebody who is so involved in this process, how important do you think that is for the University of Nevada to be able to get into some of these other places that maybe have not been traditionally recruited in the past?
Right. I think it's a big deal. I mean, to me, coming from the East Coast and coming from the Southeast where football is king, people knew about Nevada. So people here don't need to understand that people knew what Nevada is. They knew what the Pistol was. So we're kind of a hot name in some of those places. Like Coach talked about Texas. The Pistol's big down there. And there's a lot of people in the Southeast that have kind of switched over as fads going offense. The Pistol's the hot thing right now. So, last year with Coach Alt, that's what we really sold. We're still doing those same things. That's what we're selling now. So Coach Polian's energy and the new staff. But it's big for us. We've had success in Texas. People know who we are. They know what the sport logo means, so they know what University of Nevada stands for. So kids are really receptive because it's new. It's something exciting that they haven't seen before. When we go into the Southeast, we go into the Northeast, we go into the Midwest or Texas or California or the Northwest, it's a big thing for us. Like Coach said, to expand our pool and get those kids that can succeed here both athletically and academically is big for us because it just increases our recruiting base. So.
We just have about a minute left here, but I wanted you to talk about this, somebody who has experience being in the South. We hear about it all the time. It was eye-opening for me to go to Florida State and kind of see that this year. Yeah. How is football different in this part of the country than what it is down south?
I think fans here are really passionate about the program, but I think the biggest difference is it's a part of your life, and it affects your mood every day of the year. You know, we would have people call us in March and April asking when the schedule was going to come out so they could plan their wedding dates around the fall football schedule. You know, if people lose, they're miserable for 7 days. If they win, they're excited and they're ready to go and they're beating their chest. But I think it's just such ingrained in every facet of their lives there. But I can see that here, and I can see the passion about the fans we have here. You know, this university's been here for a long time. It's this really special place. And, you know, I was really surprised when I got here, the fan support and being in Mackey Stadium last year. I think it's for South Florida. I was really impressed with the atmosphere and how it's progressed. So.
Yeah, fan support has been terrific this year as well. And by the way, Paul Feinbaum's made a pretty good living off that passion down there in the South.
Absolutely. Sells a lot of books and sells a lot of subscriptions to his show.
Andy, thanks for coming down to be a part of the show. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Andy Vaughn, our guest. He's the Director of Football and Recruiting Operations at the University of Nevada. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk with Devin Combs. He's up next. The Wolfpack Coaches Show continues. All right, we're back with more of the Wolfpack Coaches Show live here at the Little Wall, and Jones West Ford is proud to sponsor the Wolfpack. Remind you the next home game is coming up on October 26th when the Wolfpack host UNLV in the battle for the Fremont Cannon. You can get your tickets now by calling 348-PACK or at NevadaWolfpack.com. Jones West Ford, trucks built tough like the Wolfpack. And speaking of UNLV, the man that beat the Rebels last year as the starting quarterback is our guest, Devin Combs, who unfortunately had his season come to an end with a torn ACL against Florida State. But Devin, first of all, just tell us how you're feeling and where things are at with the injury.
Yeah, I'm getting better. Each day, you wake up a little bit and you go into rehab, and it's a little better than it was the day before. So it's nice. You can't wait to walk. So I'm getting excited for that day.
And you said just maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks away from starting that process, right?
Yeah, and I'm excited. Counting down.
That'll be very good. Devin Combs is our guest here on the Wolfpack Coaches Show. Coach Polian had such high praise for you, the toughness that you exhibited down there at Florida State. When did you have that understanding that, okay, I didn't just get dinged up here, something might really be wrong with my knee?
Honestly, the first time I fell, then I kind of realized there was something wrong. At first when it happens, you feel a little just strange, but you don't think much of it. As long as you can still kind of move around, you think you're good. First time I fell, kind of figured there was something wrong.
All right, so ultimately you go to the sideline, you get checked out, you go through the first half, and then the day comes to an end. When you go in, you go through all the exams. I'm sure the last thing you want to hear are those three letters, ACL. When you hear that, what goes through your mind?
Well, to be honest, we didn't hear that until after the game.
Right. It was Monday, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was Monday,
yeah.
And I was surprised. I'd never had a real serious injury before, so to have it be an ACL, it kind of came as a shock and caught me off guard, to be sure.
What was it like for you? And clearly, I mean, you'd come in last year, finished the Wyoming game, you started against UNLV, led that great come-from-behind victory. To get a chance to start at a place like Florida State, and I know the game didn't go the way you guys would have wanted, but to have that opportunity, what was that like for you?
Honestly, I never would have thought I was going to be starting a game in Florida State. When I grew up as a kid, I would always watch college football. On Saturdays, that's all I did. And Florida State was my favorite venue. From the tomahawking crowd to the, riding out with the flaming spear, and I thought that was always so cool. And so I was excited. I had never been that excited for a week going into that Florida State game. I wanted to take advantage of every snap, and to say I was bummed to not be able to finish that game is an understatement. I loved the chance to be able to play that game.
Could you even watch the second half, or is there a party that's just sitting over there that because of what you're feeling, it's tough to even be engaged in the game at that point?
To be honest, it is hard because as a teammate watching your buddies play, you want to be there watching that game for them, with them. But then at the same time, to be honest, the biggest game, as an individual you were ever going to play, and to lose it, it's tough to deal with. So you kind of go back and forth. To be honest, unfortunately, I felt a little sorry for myself, and
sure,
and then you go back and forth, and you're trying to talk to the guys, and just be with your buddies.
Before you got to halftime, and Devin Combs is our guest here on the Wolfpack Coaches Show. Before you got to halftime and went in, are you between series telling yourself, I can tough this out, I can get through this, I can keep going and finish this game?
Yeah, after I fell, I came back to the sideline and I was like, hey, we just need a brace. And, I'm thinking, you get the brace on there and you're fine. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the thought. And, like I said, for that opportunity, I was going to take every snap until I truly couldn't play anymore.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, after the half, and I thought I'd be able to go back out, and it just wasn't going to be able to happen.
Talking about how much you had watched Florida State and how excited you were to go down there, you throw the fade for the touchdown to win. Can you explain what's going through you at that point when you're able to make that play? And heck, for a while, there's a lot of people there in Tallahassee that were pretty quiet because they were in a football game they didn't think they were going to be in for a while.
To be honest, that the first thing that's going through my mind is we're winning.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of people, because you're probably not thinking Nevada's going to be winning that game in the second quarter. But we were playing pretty well, and we were having a lot of fun doing it. And now thinking back on it, that'll be something that I'll always cherish, to be able to have a touchdown at that place.
All right, you've gotten through that initial shock of the injury and everything else. Have you been able to get back into kind of that positive frame of mind and focus on what's ahead and what's next for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That feeling sorry for yourself period only goes for a couple days.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's all about rehab. So I feel like I'm pretty positive attitude from this point on, and every day it's just trying to get better.
Well, Devin, we wish you nothing but the best in your rehab and your recovery, and we can't wait to see you back out on the football field. Thanks so much for coming down here tonight, being part of the show.
I appreciate it.
All right, Devin Combs, our guest here on the Wolfpack Coaches Show. We're back to wrap things up right after this. Folks, if you crave even more Wolfpack action, keep up on all of Nevada athletics with News 4's Wolfpack All Access, presented by Champion Chevrolet, highlights, coaches' perspective, and more. Wolfpack All Access airs every Sunday night after NFL Sunday Night Football, only on News 4. Appreciate you being with us for this week's edition of the Wolfpack Coaches Show. And again, we are here every Wednesday night talking Wolfpack football from 7 to 8 o'clock right here at the Little Waldorf Saloon. If you have questions for Coach Polian, you can tweet those to @Nevada Wolfpack. Use the hashtag AskThePack, and we'll get your questions on the air. And if you're here in the audience, you can certainly write down your questions, and we'll get the questions in for Coach that way. Bye week for the Wolfpack this week. Coming up a week from Saturday, it'll be Nevada and Boise State at Bronco Stadium on the blue turf. That game kicks off at 5 o'clock Pacific time, and we'll have all the coverage for you beginning with the Bud Light Tailgate Show at 3:30. That'll do it for this week's edition of the Wolfpack Coaches Show. Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks to you for being with us, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday night right here at 7 o'clock for another edition of the Wolfpack Coaches Show presented by Lexus of Reno. Have a good one, everybody.
On the Wolfpack Sports